Many people don't know the meaning of life. Some think it's a question that can be answered. Others even think we all have to die someday, so life has no meaning. But life has its meaning, and the answer to this question is simple and profound. Next, I will explain this in detail. Our life can be compared to a journey. It has a beginning and an end. Just because every journey eventually comes to an end doesn't mean that it is meaningless. So what is the meaning of a journey? I think you understand. It's the course of the journey. Similarly, the meaning of life lies in the course, but it's not so simple. People on earth now associate the course of life with money or material goals. This is completely wrong. The greatest danger concerns materialism. The people of our planet seek money. To some, it's a means of attaining power. To others, it's a means to acquire drugs, which is another curse. Yet to others, it's a way of possessing more than their neighbors possess. If a businessman owns a large store, he then wants a second one, then a third. If he commands a small empire, he wants to increase it. If an ordinary man owns a house in which he could live happily with his family, he wants a larger one, or to own a second one, then a third. Why this folly? Besides, a man will die and have to abandon all he has amassed. Perhaps his children will squander his legacy, and his grandchildren will live in poverty. His whole life will have been preoccupied with purely material concerns, with insufficient time allowed for matters of the spirit. Others with money turn to drugs in their endeavor to procure an artificial paradise, and these people pay more dearly than do the others. Now, once and for always, we will teach you and provide you with what you call the key to the mystery. As you have heard, in the beginning, there was the Spirit, alone, and He created by His immense force all that exists materially. He created planets, the suns, plants, animals, with one goal in mind: to satisfy His spiritual need. This is quite logical, since He is purely spirit. You may wondering, why the need to create material things in order to attain spiritual fulfillment? I offer this by way of explanation. The Creator thought spiritual experiences through a material world. In order to have these experiences, He wanted to embody a tiny part of His spirit in a physical entity. To do this, He called on the fourth, which concerns only spirituality. In this domain, universal law also applies. You most certainly know that the pattern of the universe dictates that 9 planets revolve around their sun. It is also the case that these suns revolve around a bigger sun, which is the nucleus for 9 such suns and their 9 planets. So it continues, right to the center of the universe, from where the explosion referred to by the English as the Big Bang originated. Needless to say, certain accidents occur, and sometimes a planet will disappear in a solar system, or perhaps enter it. But later in time, the solar system will revert and base its structure again on the number 9. The fourth had a very important role to play. It had to bring to fruition all that the spirit had imagined. It inserted, thus, an infinitesimal part of the spirit in the human body. This comprises what you could call the astral body, which forms 1/9 of the essential human being and consists of 1/9 of a higher self, which is sometimes called overself. The higher self of a man is, in other words, an entity which sends 1/9 of itself into a human body, becoming the person's astral being. Other physical bodies are inhabited, similarly, by other 9th of the same higher self, and yet each part remains integral to the central entity. Further, the higher self is a 9th part of a superior higher self, which in turn is a 9th part of a more superior higher self. The process continues as far back as the source, and allows the enormous filtration of spiritual experiences required by the spirit. You must not think that the higher self of the first category is insignificant in comparison with the others. It functions at a lower level, but is nevertheless extremely powerful and important. It is capable of curing illness and even resuscitating the dead. There are many instances of people declared clinically dead who are brought back to life in the hands of doctors who had abandoned all hope for them. What generally happens in these cases is that the person's astral body meets with the higher self. This portion of the higher self has left the physical body during the period of death. It perceives its physical body below, and the doctors trying to resuscitate it. It can also perceive loved ones who mourn for it. In his present state, the astral body, the person will feel perfectly well, even blissful. Usually, he abandons his physical body, frequently the source of much suffering, to find himself catapulted down a psychic canal, at the end of which is a wondrous light and beyond, a state of bliss. If, before passing through this canal into the blissful light, which is his higher self, he has the least will not to die, not on his own account, but for the sake of those who need him, young children, for example, he will ask to return. In certain cases, it will be permitted. You are in constant communication with your higher self by means of your cerebral canal, acting as a transmitting and receiving post. It conducts special vibrations directly between your astral body and your higher self. Your higher self monitors you continually, by day and by night, and can intervene to save you from an accident. Someone, for example, who is to catch a plane, finds that the taxi breaks down on the way to the airport. A second taxi called also breaks down. Just like that. Just like that. Could you really believe in such a coincidence? The plane in question crashes 30 minutes later, leaving no survivors. Another person, an old and rheumatic woman, and barely able to walk, starts to cross the street. There is a loud horn blast and a screeching of tires, but this person is miraculously able to leap to safety. How is this explained? It was not yet her time to die, So her higher self intervened. In 1/100th of a second, the higher self triggered a reaction in her adrenaline glands, which for a few seconds provided enough strength to her muscles to enable her to execute the leap which saved her life. Adrenaline released into the blood can make it possible to flee from imminent danger or to defeat the unbeatable through anger or fear. In too strong a dose, however, adrenaline becomes a lethal poison. It isn't only the cerebral canal which is able to conduct messages between the higher self and the astral body. Another channel exists sometimes in dreams, or I should even say in sleep. At certain times during sleep, your higher self is able to call your astral body to itself and either communicate instructions or ideas, or to regenerate it in some way, replenishing its spiritual strength or enlightening it in regard to solutions to important problems. For this reason, it is essential your sleep is undisturbed by intrusive noise or by nightmares resulting from harmful impressions received during the day. Perhaps you will better understand the importance of an old saying, night brings counsel. The physical body in which you exist at the moment is already very complex, but still, it is nothing compared with the complexity of the process of evolvement which occurs with astral bodies and higher selves. In order to allow ordinary people on our planet to understand as easily as possible, I will make my explanation in the simplest term. Your astral body, which inhabits every normal human being, transfers to its higher self all the sensations that are experienced during a lifetime in a physical body. These sensations pass through the immense filter of 9 higher selves before arriving in the etheric ocean that surrounds the spirit. If these sensations are based essentially on materialism, the higher selves have enormous trouble filtering them, just as a water filter clogs quicker if it filters dirty water than if the water was already clean. If, through the numerous experiences you have in your life, you ensure your astral body benefits in a spiritual sense, you will acquire more and more spiritual understanding in time, which can vary from 500 to even 15,000 of our Earth years. Your higher self will have nothing more to filter. This part of itself, embodied in the astral being of ourself, will be so spiritually advanced, it will have arrived at the next stage where it will have to contend directly with the more superior higher self. We can compare this process with a 9-stage filter intended to read the water passing through of 9 elements. At the end of stage 1 in the process, 1 will have been completely eliminated, with 8 remaining. Of course, to make this information easier to digest, I am making enormous use of imaginary. This astral body then will have completed its cycle with the higher self of the first category, and then will detach itself from higher self number 1 to rejoin the higher self of the second category. The entire process will be repeated. By the same token, the astral body will be sufficiently spiritually advanced to pass to a planet of the next category as well. In his wisdom, the spirit, by means of the force, provided for 9 categories of planets. On some planets, which is in the 9th category, that is, at the top of the scale, Earth is a planet of the first category, and therefore at the bottom of the scale. What does this mean? The planet Earth could be likened to a kindergarten, with the emphasis on teaching basic social values. A planet of the second category would then correspond with a primary school, where further values are taught. In both schools, adult guidance is imperative. The third category will comprise secondary schools, where a foundation of values allows exploration beyond. Next, you will go to university, where you are treated as an adult, for you will not only have attained a certain amount of knowledge, but you will also start to accept civic responsibility. This is the type of progress occurring with the 9 categories of planets. The more spiritually advanced you are, the more you will benefit on a superior planet, by an environment and general way of life which is superior. The very way in which you procure food is much easier, which in return simplifies the process of organizing your way of life. The consequence is more effective spiritual development. On the higher planets, nature itself enters the stage to assist the pupil, and by the time you reach planets of 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th category, not only is your astral body highly evolved, your physical body has also benefited from your development. Although on the 9th category of planet, it is truly paradise, but compared with true happiness when you become a pure spirit, it is still nothing. On the 9th category of planet, it is possible either to remain in a physical body or be reunited with the Great Spirit in the ether. You have understood that the astral body is a body which inhabits your physical body. Recalling and noting all the understanding acquired during the course of its various lives, it can only be enriched spiritually, not materially. The physical body is merely a vehicle, which, in most cases, we abandon when we die. I will elaborate. Maybe in most cases has confused you. By this, I mean that some of us, including all on the 9th category of planet, are able to regenerate the cells of their bodies at will. There are 3 planets that are the most highly evolved in this galaxy. Some of them can and do directly join what we call the Great Ether. So, on that particular planet, they have arrived at a stage near perfection, both materially and spiritually. But they have their roles to perform, as does every creature existing in the universe. In fact, everything, including a single pebble, has its role. Their role, as beings of a superior planet, is to guide, to help with spiritual development, and even, sometimes, materially. They are in a position to give material assistance because they are technologically the most advanced people. Indeed, how could a father give spiritual guidance to his child if he were not older, more educated, and more skilled in diplomacy than the child? If the child should require physical punishment, as unfortunately is sometimes the case, isn't it important that the parent be physically stronger than the child? Certain adults who refuse to listen and who are absolutely stubborn also need to be corrected by physical means. Going back to our astral bodies, an astral body absolutely cannot change to a superior planet until sufficiently evolved. We are speaking, of course, of spiritual evolution and not technological. This evolution occurs thanks to the physical body that improves as it progresses right up as far as the 9th category of planet. You have already learned of the 9 categories of planets. Ours are at the bottom of the scale. We, in our present physical bodies, can be permitted only 9 days stay on other categories of planet. According to universal law, on the 10th day, our physical bodies would die, and no one could, within whose power it is to revive the dead, would be able to prevent or reverse the process. Nature has very inflexible rules with well-established safeguards. But if we were to die there, is it possible that astral body could stay there and we could be reincarnated as a baby on other categories of planet? And the answer is no. Universal law will require that you be reincarnated on Earth if you had not yet finished your time here. But it is possible that when you do die on Earth, when your moment has come, your astral body will reincarnate in a body on another, more advanced planet, a second or perhaps third category planet, or even higher category planet, depending on your present degree of development. Some people may think, is it possible then to skip all categories and find ourselves reincarnated on a 9th category planet? Still, the answer is simple. Can you take some iron ore and some carbon, heat them to the right temperature, and produce pure steel? No. First, you must skim the rubbish from the iron. Then it goes back to the pot to be processed again and again and again, for as long as it takes to produce first-class steel. The same applies to us. We must be reprocessed over and over until we emerged perfect. For eventually we will rejoin the Spirit, who, being perfect himself, cannot accept the slightest imperfection. The Spirit, who has created everything, wanted this way, and I'm sure that for him it's very simple. But for a poor human brain, I admit, it is at times difficult to comprehend, and it gets more difficult the closer we try to get to the source. We are on the planet Earth, which is sometimes called the planet of sorrows. Indeed, the name is appropriate, but it is this way for a precise reason. It is intended to provide a learning environment of a quite specific kind. It is not because life here is so difficult that you have to intervene. You cannot lightly go against nature, destroying rather than conserving what the Creator has put at your disposal. That is, interfering with ecological systems, which have been intricately designed. Certain countries, like Australia, are beginning to show great respect for ecology, and it is a step in the right direction. But even in that country, what case is made of pollution? Both water and air pollution? What is ever done about one of the worst forms of pollution? Noise. At the moment, most responsibility is taken for the physical body. But this is a serious mistake. If your psyche is poor, it will influence your physical appearance accordingly. But, regardless, your physical body will wear out and die one day, whereas your psyche, being part of your astral body, never dies. On the contrary, the more you cultivate your mind, the less you will be burdened by your physical body, and the quicker you will proceed through your cycle of lives. Our lives have cycles, which means there are afterlives beyond our death. and the role we have in the lives before this one could be varied, as though they were attached to a wheel. Because a wheel is made to turn, any point on it that is on top will soon be at the bottom. It is inevitable. Do you see? One day you are a beggar, and then you can be a queen. A queen, of course, was not only at the top of the wheel, but maybe could also learn a lot and greatly help others. And yet, in many cases, a beggar will learn as much as a king, and in some instances, he will learn much more. What counts most is not appearances, but what is behind them. When your astral body takes on another physical body, it is, quite simply, in order to learn more and even more. As we have explained to you, it is for the sake of your higher self. It is a process of continual refinement, which can occur just as effectively in the body of a beggar as in that of a king or a miner. The physical body is but a tool. A sculptor's chisel and hammer are tools. They will never reach beauty on their own, but they contribute to it in the hand of an artist. A wonderful statue could not have been created with the artist's bare hands. You should always bear in mind this main point. An astral body, in all cases, must conform to universal law, and by following nature as closely as possible, it can achieve the ultimate goal by the fastest path. Before you decide to enter your current physical body, you will preview this life with your higher self. But you must realize that after having seen your life as yourself flashed before you, and after accepting to live that life, all details of it were erased from your memory. You pass through what certain Nagas have called the river of oblivion. This happens whether one accepts or rejects a possible reincarnation. Of course, there is a reason for it. If, for example, you remembered that around 40 years of age, you will lose your wife and 2 cherished children in a car accident, and that you, yourself, will be confined to a wheelchair, the knowledge could tempt you to take your life rather than face up to your troubles. Or it might lead you to behave badly in others' affairs. So the film is erased in something like the way you wipe out a tape recording. Occasionally, by accident, the machine does not erase everything, and you can hear brief portions of what should have been erased. Of course, my analogies are fanciful when I speak of films and tape recordings, but I hope they give you an idea of what I'm trying to explain. In reality, the process involves electrophotonics, which mean nothing yet to people on Earth. This, in fact, occurs often in the films that the higher self shows to an astral body, which is why most people say, on several occasions in the course of their lives, I have seen that before, or I have heard that before, and they know what the very next action or word will be. In English, people call this feeling déjà vu. Now we could summarize. The meaning of life is to learn more and more, spiritually, not materially. In this way, we could achieve continuous evolvement in the cycle of our lives. Through spiritual advancement, we could enter the next category of planet, and eventually one day, we could rejoin the spirit. Life on earth is difficult, but it is the spirit's intention. In this special environment, we could learn knowledge. At the same time, we should be aware not to be influenced by materialism, for we could waste our time on it. The meaning of our life is to learn spiritually. If we are unable to do this, then no matter how much wealth, honor, or other material-based achievements you have when you pass away, this life will be completely meaningless. Also, there are some methods to help with your spiritual elevation. First, if you want to elevate yourself, you must meditate and then concentrate, which is different. Although often the two are confused, you do not need to go to a special place, for the greatest and the most beautiful temple of man is inside himself. There, he can enter into communication with his higher self by concentration, asking his higher self to help him surmount his earthly material difficulties. But certain people need to communicate with other human beings like themselves, and they can meet together for this purpose. Those of them who are more experienced will be able to give advice, but no one should ever adopt a position as master. Finally, I understand some of this information maybe you can't fully absorb, but it's normal. To the regular people on earth, these knowledges should take some time to digest. You can click the link in the description below to download a free ebook and read the original content. I hope this content could help you. May the Spirit enlighten you.